Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for Glee Season 5, Episode 12, 100. And this was their 100th episode, the highly anticipated 100th episode where everyone came back. And how did this episode work overall? To be honest, guys, I was a little disappointed with this episode. It wasn't a terrible episode. It was actually a really good episode. It really was. However, there was a lot of parts in this episode that felt very rushed. And I felt they could have done more with it, but because it was so rushed, they didn't. First, let me just say something real quick that they did not do in this episode. If you want an episode that focuses on the graduates graduating and things like that, this is not that episode. This focuses on the alumni and what they're doing, and it's basically just the alumni. Next week I think we focused a little bit more on the graduates. This week we focused on the alumni, though. And this is a two-part episode. I'm thinking part 2 is going to be a little bit stronger, because this part, honestly, was a little bit weak. It really was. The big storyline is that the Glee Club is ending, and they're celebrating it, basically. They're not trying to fight for it. They're just accepting the fact that the Glee Club is ending, and all the alumni are back to fight for it. So let's talk about some of the storylines, some of the ones that I liked, and then there was one that I thought was kind of silly, but let's get to the one that I thought was kind of silly first. First we'll get to the main one. Of course, the Glee Club is ending. April came back out of nowhere, I thought that was a little strange. She came out of nowhere. I would have wanted more of a reason for her to come back, but I guess it's because she bought the auditorium. If you remember, the name of the auditorium is the April Road Civic Pavilion. She is back to basically try to get the Glee Club back, or try to get the money back from the Glee Club, so they have money, because if you remember, Sue said the whole reason they ended was because of budget cuts, so she's back to try to give some of her money back to the Glee Club. But Sue actually finds out something about her. The actual thing that's happening is that April is no longer rich. She's actually broke, and she didn't tell Will, so Will is furious at her when he finds this out. He's really upset that she brought their hopes up, because she is no longer rich and she can't help them. So unfortunately they're now screwed. So that storyline just kind of came out of nowhere. I thought it was kind of silly, but I mean, I understand why they did it, but if you wanted to do that, that should have been the focus for the whole episode. The focus for the whole episode was not that. The focus for the whole episode were the alumni and things that they were doing, and there were several plots with that. The newbies got one line, which was very funny, but it had to do with the Rachel and Mercedes plot. Let's get to that. Rachel and Mercedes, what the fuck? Why are you acting like children? Do you not realize that, I understand that this was a feud that was, like, a big thing, but why did you revisit this? It's silly, honestly. You could have done so much more with this. You should have just continued the Rachel and Santana stuff if you really wanted to, which they did in this episode, but the Rachel Mercedes thing felt very forced, very out of nowhere. And especially how Mercedes was acting last week, completely not big-headed. It kind of just came out of nowhere, to be honest. They are both performing Defying Gravity. For some reason, Kurt's performing as well. We don't know why. But they performed Defying Gravity, and they basically, the students, the Glee Club has to decide who's better, Rachel and Mercedes. And the thing is, though, that, like, half of these people just met these people, I would have wanted a Rachel and Marley confrontation, because everyone always compared Rachel and Marley. I would have wanted that. I'm thinking we might get that next week. I don't know. I'm just hoping there's more next week than what we got this week. But then before they vote, we get probably my favorite scene of this Rachel and Mercedes plot, which is when Santana completely just says out of nowhere, she says that this feud came out of nowhere, and I mean, Santana, sometimes I hate her, but in part of the scene I hate her, part of the scene I loved her. The part where she's like, this feud came out of nowhere, that was hilarious, because I'm like, that's completely true. And then she tells Rachel that, she says, just so you know, Rachel's the worst person ever, and she even admits to Rachel that she did not actually win prom queen, that Quinn and her made Rachel win prom queen. Like, why did you tell her that? What does that have anything to do with it? This really sets Rachel off the edge. She really gets upset about this. And we finally find out the real reason why Rachel was so upset. You know why? And it's not because she's big-headed. it's because she feels like she's back in high school wherever she goes. She wants to be more mature. She doesn't want to be back in high school. She doesn't want to do this with Santana anymore. She said to Mercedes and her of this conversation, and she said to Mercedes that, I always thought that, you know, Santana was, you know, I thought me and Santana were friends, and then all of a sudden we're back to this high school drama, and Rachel doesn't want it. She's not ready to, she doesn't want to fight with Santana anymore. She just wants to be friends, and she wants to be adults about it, and that's why Rachel was so overdramatic about it, because she can't handle any more stress, any more drama. She doesn't want the high school drama, and basically Rachel and Mercedes ended their feud. They both win, and they've buried the hatchet. So I like their plot. I like that we got to see that. I just thought it was a little silly that came out of nowhere. Strongest plot for me this episode was Quinn and Puck. Their storyline was amazing. It was definitely something we haven't really seen on Glee before. I thought it was pretty cool the way this is working. We basically find out that Quinn has this new boyfriend, Biff, played by Chase Crawford, who I wish he would have sang in this episode, but he doesn't even get a song. But Biff is not a good boyfriend to Quinn. We see this right away, you know, with her. She's singing Toxic with the Unholy Trinity. Yes, we did get an Unholy Trinity reuniting scene, which was great. I really loved that. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of the episode. Was the Unholy Trinity but while this is happening, he's staring at his phone, not even paying attention to her, and I thought it was funny when they're like, hey, what did you think of the performance? And he's like, it was really good, and he's like, all very, like, formal about things, and they go to Breadsticks, because Quinn wants, you know, Puck and everyone to come back to Breadsticks, just to, like, probably just to have some fun, rekindle some memories, things like that, and we basically find out that Quinn has been lying to Biff. She hasn't told him about anything that has happened to her in Lima. She didn't tell him about Beth. She didn't tell him about her pink hair, her tattoo. And, I mean, Santana was telling him everything just because they were wondering if he knew. And he didn't know any of this stuff about her. And Puck basically feels really bad about it. He's basically telling Quinn, you cannot be with this guy. He does not really love you. And you can see that Puck still loves her. You know, we had a voiceover of him. He's now in the Air Force now, which was really cool to see. I thought it was cool that Puck's in the Air Force. And we basically find out that Puck doesn't think this guy is right for her. And what he does is he sings Keep Holding On to Her, which was amazing to watch. I really love that scene. Really effective scene right there. Definitely the best song, probably the best song of the episode was Keep Holding On, because it was just such an intimate performance. And they did the old choreography again as well, which had me a little teary-eyed, because I personally loved their version of Keep Holding On when they first did it. And the episode they did it from was one of my favorite episodes of Glee of all time. Throwdown, one of my favorites of all time, definitely. That's like in season 1, but I remember that episode. It was so good. What happens though is they decide to, you know, he performs this song to her. And she's really, you can clearly see she's happy about it, but she's crying, and she's not crying because of Puck. She's crying because she remembered the past again. She doesn't want to remember the past, and Puck told her the whole reason why he sang that song to her is because you have to keep holding on of those memories. You can't just get rid of everything that's happened in the past, but she says in 20 years, none of us are really going to care, and he tells her that, you know, you have to keep holding on to those memories. You can't just not tell him. And she basically tells him everything. When Biff finds out about this, he is pissed at her that he did not tell her this. And he tells her she's a complete slut and not to talk to her again. And Puck really gets upset about this. He punches Biff. You know, they get into a huge fight. Really amazing scene here. They get into a huge fight. And after this happens, Quinn tells Puck, you know, Puck tells Quinn, I'm ready to leave. I'm not coming back. You know, he tells Quinn, he says, are you really going to stick around with him, or are you going to come back in the Glee Club with all of us? And she decides to do that. But then he stares at a photo of Finn, and this scene got me kind of teary-eyed. He's like, you know, he would be proud of me with what I'm doing, and he says, I'm basically ready to leave. He's ready to leave, and he told Quinn, tell me you want me to come back. And she chases after him, telling him to come back, and she does kiss him, which was an amazing scene. And I'm so happy they kissed, because I always loved Quinn and Puck together. and I'm really happy that they did do that. And I don't think this is the end of it. I think we're going to get a little bit more of what they're going to be doing, you know, because this is basically the series finale of this half of Glee. The rest of the show is going to be New York, as we know, which I'm looking forward to. But definitely, that was a great plot, and I really loved Quinn's plot. I thought definitely Quinn's plot was my favorite of the episode. Now let's get to Brittany and Santana. Brittany and Santana, I thought this one kind of came out of nowhere, but I still really enjoyed it a lot. Brittany, as we know, is in MIT, and she is basically being forced to answer all these problems, and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. You know, she's completely confused. You see she's very stressed out, and Santana can see this as well. And Santana basically tells her, Brittany, what the hell are you doing? You don't belong at MIT, you belong to be a dancer. And Brittany tells her that's not her life anymore. She doesn't want to do that anymore. And she's just not of that life anymore. But Santana decides to convince her by singing Valerie, which I remember when she sang that in the Season 2 sectionals. It was really amazing. And when they did it here, it was great, too. I really liked the way they did it, especially Mike Chang twerking. That was really funny. Kind of came out of nowhere, but that was really funny. And, so yeah, that happened. And then after that, you know, she sings to Brittany, and Brittany does end up dancing with her. And then we get the final scene between Santana and Brittany, which I really, really liked. Santana and Brittany, what they basically decide to do is Brittany tells her that the whole reason that she's upset is because she still thinks Santana has feelings for her. And she tells Santana to dump her girlfriend, and that she'll always be there for her. And it was just a very sweet scene between the two of them, you know. Honestly, it's sad what they're doing to Demi Lovato, but Demi Lovato wanted that to happen to her character. You know, she completely said, I don't want to be part of the show anymore, so that's how they write her out of the show. And, how did I feel about that? I thought that was a really good scene. I definitely really enjoyed it, and I thought they did a really nice job with it. So yeah, definitely they did a really nice job with that plot. I really enjoyed it a lot. And, I really enjoyed it. Now, the one thing that I will say that I forgot to talk about was we did get something with the newbies. When they were chose to pick who would they pick for Rachel and Marley, Jake and Ryder had this great line where Jake's like, I don't know, I'm torn. One's black and one's Jewish. Because as we know, he's half black and he's also Jewish. So, very funny line from Jake. Definitely the funniest line of the night by far. I love that scene. That was really funny. But then we get to the end, which was a tribute to Finn. Pretty much, you know, we see that they are going to leave Finn and Lillian Adler's plaques in the auditorium for everyone to see. Even though Glee Club is ending, they want them to leave them there. And then Will tells, you know, Will has all the original New Directions back together, and he says they're there basically because he's not there to make them sad or anything. He's there to thank them for doing what they did with this club. And that's what he's happy with. He's happy, he's there to thank them for making this club so good, for working out, for making their lives better in this club, dedicating their lives to this club, and that's what he is happy about, that they're doing that. And he says, we only have a few hours left, let's try and make it a good one. And then we get something that I know is not going to work. We see Holly. Yes, Holly came back because April brought her back, which kind of came out of nowhere, but I was like, okay, fine, it's the 100th episode, whatever, have fun with it. Holly came back, and Holly and April are now going to try to get the club back. We know they're not going to be successful because the episode after that is the New York episode, so they're obviously not going to be successful at that. But overall, that was the episode. It was a very strong episode, in my opinion. You know, a little disappointing. There was some stuff that I would have wanted to see a little bit more of. You know, we didn't really get much with Kurt and Blaine. I would have wanted more from them, more with the graduates, more with the newbies. I think we're going to get more of that next week. We're going to get closure from them next week. I like the storylines we got this week, though, especially the Quinn and Puck one. Very effective storyline, because this can happen to people. They can date someone who's completely wrong for them. They're only dating them because they're rich and things like that. I also really thought the Rachel and Mercedes one was also really good because it shows that certain things don't leave you during high school, and Rachel doesn't want that high school drama anymore. You know, she's done with it. And then the Brittany and Santana stuff was really good too. So overall, a really good episode. Was it the best of the season? No, I expected it to be, but it wasn't. I think next week is probably going to be best of the season. end of the series. That's it for my review, though. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys for my next video, which will be my review for Justified. So see you then. Bye.